Hello and welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's get into the top headlines of the hour. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is in US custody at a New York detention center after his capture in his country. Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores are moved from Caracas to Brooklyn to face drug trafficking related charges. Venezuela declares a national emergency and denounces what it calls US military aggression after the operation. President Donald Trump says the US will run Venezuela until a safe transition and says US oil companies will rebuild infrastructure. It still remains uncertain on how the US will run Venezuela or who will be involved, as Trump says it will be a group effort with ongoing talks. Trump says Vice President Delcy Rodriguez showed willingness to cooperate, but she later demands Maduro's release and calls him the only president. Trump also says opposition leader Maria Corina Machado lacks the support and respect to lead Venezuela. Trump says he has not spoken to her as she earlier backs Edmundo Gonzalez and claims he won the 2024 election. The UK Defence Ministry says Royal Air Force jets joined France in seeking an underground site in Syria linked to ISIL weapons storage. The operation comes as ISIL has seen resurgence after a period of relative dormancy in the region. Police identify 16 more bodies from the Crans, Montana bar fire, bringing the known death toll to 24, with several nationalities among the dead. Authorities say a criminal investigation is underway as families wait for news of those who are still missing. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung begins a state visit to China hours after North Korea launches ballistic missiles. Lee is set to meet President Xi Jinping as both sides signal interest in stability, economic cooperation and tourism. Israeli forces shoot and kill at least 3 people in separate incidents in Khan Yunis, local health officials have said. Medics say the dead include a 15-year-old boy, a fisherman and a man shot east of the city in and under Israeli control. Now we start this hour with breaking news coming out of Africa. And more than 30 people have been killed and several others kidnapped by bandits in Nigeria's central Niger state. According to the Niger State Police spokesman, Wasi Abiodun, the gunmen stormed the Kusuwan Daji village in Niger State Borgu local government area and opened fire on residents. They also razed down the local market and several houses. As per locals, the gunmen had been lurking around nearby communities for about a week before the attack. And the attack in Kasuwan Daji village happened near the Papiri community, where more than 300 school children and their teachers were kidnapped from a Catholic school in November. Of course, we'll continue to bring you all updates coming out of that story as we get them. But now we move on to our top story of the last 2 days. And after the US military operation that captured President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Venezuela is entering a critical and uncertain phase. Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores are now in US custody, facing weapons and drug trafficking charges in New York. The overnight operation also included strikes on Venezuelan military sites, marking Washington's most direct action against Caracas in decades. Inside the country, power has not shifted. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has been sworn in as interim president by Venezuela's Supreme Court, but insists that Maduro remains the legitimate leader. US President Donald Trump says the United States will oversee Venezuela until what he calls a safe and proper transition has taken place. However, no formal governance structure has been outlined so far, and Maduro's political allies continue to control state institutions. Additionally, Trump has also signaled a major economic reset. US oil companies are expected to move in to restore infrastructure and restart production. In fact, let's listen in to what Trump said in this regard at his recent presser.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money.
Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, though much of its heavy crude that is difficult to refine. While US officials say no further military action is planned, Trump has not ruled out deploying troops if necessary. Joining us now is Andrew Latham, an international affairs expert. He joins us live from Minneapolis, and Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, an international relations expert, joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to start with you first, Andrew. Of course, we know many things about the current state of Venezuela. However, many things still remain unclear. Of course, the vice president of Venezuela, contradictory to President Donald Trump's comments, has said that Maduro still is the only president of the country. And of course, we have a US statement saying that they are going to temporarily take over the United States. And also, of course, the opposition, backed by Gonzalez and, of course, Nobel Peace Prize winner Machado. It doesn't seem like they are being involved in these plans for future governance of Venezuela. What are the challenges that fall in front of the US government and its allies when installing a new governance structure here?
I think the most important point to recall is that while the U.S. has decapitated the Venezuelan regime, it hasn't changed it, it hasn't ruined it, it hasn't broken it. There are many tiers to that regime, and it is very robust and resilient. And right now, they are still in charge, still running the show. Now, there are a couple of scenarios that might unfold, one of which is a kind of civil war within the regime as different factions vie for Maduro's position, and the whole thing then falls apart over time. That's a possibility. It may just be business as usual. Now they've got a new leader, and everybody within the regime is more or less content with the regime, and if it ain't broken, don't fix it, in which case the entire American effort has been for naught. There are some other scenarios that might unfold that involve American boots on the ground. Donald Trump talks about running Venezuela. He's not running Venezuela. It's premature to talk about Marco Rubio or Pete Hegseth as the czar of Venezuela. Right now, that regime remains intact, and the United States has influence, leverage, but it's not running the show.
Indeed, and does this constitute an unprecedented interventionism described as law enforcement here? What are the challenges that the US is going to face? Obviously, Donald Trump wanted and has threatened fresh military action in the country. What needs to happen? What needs to happen on the Venezuelan side for Donald Trump not to follow through with that?
Well, I think it boils down to not narcotics and not refugee flows and migration, but it flows down to the intrusion of China, Russia, and Iran into the Western Hemisphere, which in the latest National Security Strategy Statement, the Trump corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, that's America's sphere of influence, and they need to go. If this regime were to make some gestures in the direction of controlling narcotics trade, but were to really expel the Russians, the Chinese, and the Iranians, the United States would be satisfied. The regional neighbors might not be satisfied because migration and refugee flows are a real crisis, and millions of Venezuelans are on the move and have left Venezuela. But from Washington's perspective, this is geopolitics 101. This is the Monroe Doctrine, now relabeled the Donroe Doctrine, Donald Trump, Monroe. And I think that's what would bring this entire episode to an end. Whether the regime in Caracas is willing to go that way, that remains to be seen.
Indeed. Andrew, do stay with us as we move on to our next story. And Venezuela's Supreme Court has ordered Vice President Delcy Rodriguez to become the country's interim president after the United States seized President Nicolas Maduro and whisked him out of the country. The court ruled that Ms. Rodriguez should assume and exercise in all acting capacity the attributes, duties and powers inherent to the office of president to guarantee administrative continuity and the comprehensive defense of the nation. Ms. Rodriguez is a lawyer who graduated from the Central University of Venezuela in 1993. She also served as a professor at the Central University of Venezuela. She was also the president of the union within the Venezuelan Association of Labor Lawyers. The interim president commenced her governmental career in 2003, joining the general coordination of the vice presidency of the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela. From February to August 2006, she was the Minister for Presidential Affairs during President Hugo Chávez's term. In 2003, Nicolas Maduro appointed her as the Minister of Popular Power for Communication and Information of Venezuela. In December 2014, she was appointed as the Minister of Popular Power for Foreign Relations, also known as the Chancellor. In 2017, Ms. Rodriguez resigned as Chancellor to stand as a candidate in the National Constituent Assembly elections, and in 2018, Mr. Maduro appointed Ms. Rodriguez as the Vice President of Venezuela, succeeding Tareq al-Assam. The interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sanctioned by several countries and was banned from entering neighbouring Colombia. Joining us once again is Andrew Latham and also Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, an international relations expert, joining us live from New Delhi. Dr. Kochar, I want to start with you. Does Delcy Rodriguez's appointment here by the Venezuelan Supreme Court provide genuine constitutional legitimacy here? Do you expect much resistance from her when it comes to interfering in the United States' plans for the country?
Thank you, Thomas. I think, first of all, her candidature will have to be approved by the Supreme Tribunal of Justice, the National Electoral Council, and the Armed Forces, because that's a constitutional requirement. And I think that should not be a problem. It would be gone through. The problem is going to come that Delcy Rodriguez, is she going to follow what the United States will tell her to do? Because that will create a situation for the United States to then get into place their plan B or their phase 2 of the operation, which I don't think will happen under the present circumstances, because right now Delcy Rodriguez is presenting a bold front. She is not condescending to what the Americans are wanting to do, and she's still speaking in favor of Maduro, and she's telling the Americans to release him. So now what happens is that in spite of all that has happened, and if we look at the past record also, the way the Americans do the regime change, and when they can't actually get into the thing, they can't physically remove a person, they are going to control the economics, in the sense that there is this oil company of Venezuela, which is a state-owned oil company. It's an oil and natural gas company called PDVSA, Petros de Venezuela SA. Now, American Chevron oil and gas company of America is already there in Venezuela. So they already they have an organization which is present in Venezuela, which is going to control this critical resource, because this is what, if you recollect the press briefing of Donald Trump yesterday evening, he made a clear mention that we are going to control the entire oil, and we are going to Venezuela stronger. So this a kind of dual governance will pose a problem. So I don't know what kind of arrangement Donald Trump will have, because Marco Rubio has spoken to his lady and in question the vice president, and possibly some kind of arrangement is going to emerge, because I don't think she can hold on for
Okay.
a long time to disregard what the United States is wanting, because Delcy Rodriguez is going to come to some sort of a compromise, because if he doesn't come, then it becomes difficult for her to continue in the present circumstances. And my last point is, we would have to actually watch that how does US govern a state when the population of the country is not going to accept it. So there have been demonstrations in the streets since yesterday, and people are not in favor of this kind of a takeover of a country by external force. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
the question of sovereignty and nationalism, and no country, even if it happens in our country, we are going to allow this to happen. So that would be a thing which I think we will have to watch in greater detail, that how USA is going to navigate this particular opposition from the people, and what kind of mechanisms are in place, what is the kind of a diaspora of Venezuela present in the US.
Okay, Dr. Kochar, I do apologise. I just want to bring Andrew in once again here. Of course, the Maduro government was seen as legitimate by certain actors around the world, including that of Russia, who today even criticised the United States for removing an elected official, an elected leader from office. Now, with Rodriguez coming in, how do you expect Venezuelan allies to react to this new government? As you said, Andrew, it is operational. The Supreme Court has confirmed Rodriguez now as president after Maduro's removal. Do you expect a rally of international allies around her coming up?
That remains to be seen, pardon me. But the important point is that capitals around the world are going to rally around the cause of sovereignty, and that no country can unilaterally engage in a special military operation to arrest the head of state of another country and render them back to the home country and then try them by, in this case, American law. Nobody on the planet, no national leader around the world is going to accept that as a norm, because they might be next, if not at the hands of Washington, at the hands of Moscow or Beijing or somebody else. So but it needs to be said that there are two kinds of reactions. There's the official state reaction, which is you broke the rules, you violated the norms, you shouldn't have done this. And then there are people around the world, the Venezuelan diaspora in and beyond the United States, but also Colombians and others who are rallying massively in support of what the United States has done, because they consider Maduro to be a dictator, not to be duly elected or lawfully elected, a despot and a dictator, and his removal for many, many Latin Americans and many people around the world, despite their loathing of Donald Trump, they loathe Maduro more, and they are glad to see it gone.
Yeah, indeed. Andrew, stay with us, and Dr. Kochar, stay with us. We have further updates coming. And US President Donald Trump says Washington will take direct control of Venezuela following the military operation that led to capture of the president, Maduro. Trump said the United States will oversee the country until what he called a safe and judicious political transition is achieved. He also signaled continued pressure, including enforcement of the oil embargo. Let's listen in to the US president. Apologies there, we seem to have lost the bite.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious, because that's what we're all about. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money.
Colombia reinforced its border with Venezuela following the US strikes on Caracas and the capture of the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro. Dozens of Venezuelans are stranded at the Colombia-Venezuela border in Paraguachuan, La Guajira, after the crossing was suddenly closed, causing long waits, confusion and financial difficulties. Let's have a look at that situation.
Claro, bueno, cuando nosotros salimos nos había información de lo que estaba pasando, sucediendo en Caracas. Cuando llegamos aquí porque nos dimos cuenta que estaba cerrada la frontera. Entonces ya eso son cosas que no se esperaban. Plata que se ha gastado, está uno varado aquí porque no tiene plata, no tiene nada.
Nos complicó porque no sabíamos nada, llegamos aquí y no lo dejan pasar para allá, que no hay carro. Nomás lo dejaron pasar hasta ahí, y para allá no hay carro, no lo querían. Está trancado el puente Río Limón, está todo trancado.
Andrew, of course, Donald Trump saying that the US will govern or run the US for now. Of course, many people concerned about this. Who haven't been mentioned is Marina Cachado, of course, the Nobel Peace Prize winner of this year, Gonzalez, many of whom, including Donald Trump's predecessor, recognized as the 2024 election winner in Venezuela. If this isn't occupation by the United States of Venezuela, then what is it?
Well, it's certainly not occupation. In fact, Donald Trump used the word, we are going to directly rule. That's just not on the cards right now. There are no American boots on the ground. The regime is intact and continues to govern. And there's any second wave, I doubt very much, would involve boots on the ground, because that would require, under the American War Powers Resolution of 1973, congressional approval, and I can't see that happening anytime soon. So direct rule is out of the question, and then the question becomes indirect rule. To what extent can the United States use its leverage to put people in charge of Venezuela that are favorably inclined towards American interests? That remains to be seen as well. I think Donald Trump's nose is a little out of joint because Machado got the Nobel Prize and not him. But even taking personalities out of the equation, it remains to be seen who actually has the legitimacy within Venezuela if this regime were to collapse, to step up and say, okay, I was elected, I am in charge. And then they have to ask what that person would say to Washington. Yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir? Or would it be more of the same but under a different flag?
Indeed. Dr. Kochar, when the US says that it will oversee Venezuela until a safe transition, who decides what that word safe means?
Obviously, Donald Trump will decide because there's no other actually power who has right now the control over Venezuela. And going back a little into history, if we look at Iraq also 2003, America actually governed Iraq through a provisional authority that is control of assets and not sovereignty, because that was also a part of thing. Libya also 2011, America did a similar kind of a thing, a governance, overseeing the things and all. So here I have a feeling that Vice President Rodriguez will be given 3 clear-cut directions: stop export of oil to China, stop arms procurement from Russia. As a matter of fact, Venezuela will have to cut off all links from China, Russia, and Iran, and be totally subservient to the United States, because that is what the United States wants, and that is what has caused the United States to carry out this special operation. So I think these are very clear-cut directions which the Vice President would have to follow, because she possibly has limited options as of now, and in case that's the last contingency, in case things don't pan out in this manner, then as Andrew is saying, that they will place somebody of their choice in Venezuela by some kind of a method, because I was just reading somewhere today that as per the constitution of Venezuela, in case a president is absent for more than 30 days, they have to elect a new leader. So because right now it is an interim arrangement, and the vice president has been made in charge so that the things go smoothly as far as the administration is concerned and the governance issues are concerned. But possibly I think the next 30 days something will come up to suggest that the person who is going to be appointed there is going to be pro-US, because that is what is going to happen in Venezuela. And China and Russia, I think they are have made strong statements condemning this kind of a thing. They can go to Security Council also, but it will not have anything
Yes.
Much about it. So presently, I think that would be the arrangement. This vice president will continue for the next 30 days, and then possibly, if she is okay, if she accepts all the conditions of the US, which most probably I think may happen, then the things will go very smoothly. America will take control of all the oil companies. I just mentioned that VSA this is the oil and natural gas company of Venezuela, which controls all the oil assets. That will hand over the entire control of these assets to the United States oil companies. Already one oil company is already there.
Yes.
Some other oil company may be superimposed here, and they will run the show.
Yes. Dr. Rajan Kochar and Professor Andrew Latham, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to speak to you on the programme. Thank you for taking the time. Well, that is all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international updates. Thanks.